So 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's a very simple statement, almost very deceivingly so. But the equation is fundamental truth, right? And it highlights a key aspect of our universe that absolutes can exist. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4, no matter what, right? No matter if World War III starts today, or I don't know, whether I decide to do jumping jacks, right? 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. But yeah, so extrapolate that logic onto the entirety of the universe, and you'll arrive at a pretty uncontroversial claim. A group of definite factors will always result in a definite solution, right? I mean, that's only logical. If you give me a if you give me two fingers or two apples and you give me two oranges and you ask me how many fruits I have, I would say four fruits, right? But that brings up the problem of that doesn't really stay true when we apply it to humans. Like, if you give me this marker and you told me to draw something, you would assume that 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. So me and a marker will always equal a happy face. But that's not always the case, right? I have the choice of drawing a sad face or a pound sign or a string or anime girls or whatever, right? The point is that we don't abide by this fundamental rule that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay? Two definite factors, me and the marker, will not always result in a definite solution. So you might say, oh, humans are not a definite factor. We change, and that is free will. That's the cause that makes us change. But we'll get to that, right? Let's slow our roll here. So, yeah, our understanding of human free will fundamentally contradicts like this idea, right? So why do people think that we as a species have this special power, or I guess life in general, right? I guess if you give a dog a marker, you don't know what the fuck it's gonna do, right? So why does life, right, contradict this very fundamental idea that we have of the universe? And you might say that life is just a sex factor. And again, slow roll, we'll get there, right? So whether you're a determinist or a libertarian, I don't know, right? We can't simply prove right now with the technology we have why life, um, whatever, right? Why life doesn't abide by this law of 2 plus 2 equals 4. Um, it might be. Uh, there's a million different philosophical opinions on why free will exists, why it doesn't exist, whatever, right? But right now, I just want to focus on science. Science can't disprove the existence of free will. So you might be saying, at the quantum level, right, with string theory, and you're not totally sure what string theory is. It's an idea that at the very bottom layer of the universe, at the quantum level, the universe is made of strings, right? These strings right here, and these strings, they oscillate, vibrate, whatever the fuck, right? They move seemingly at random, okay? And you might be saying, wait, what kicked off the first string? Because I thought everything in the universe has to come from something. So what was the first domino that pushed up the chain? Dominoes, was it God? Is God what gives us free will? Can we slow our roll? Give me 1 second to explain what string theory is. So string theory is this idea that the universe at the very bottom level oscillates at random, right? These strings will vibrate randomly. So you might be saying, if the strings are random, the very bottom layer of a universe is random, doesn't that make the second most lobes layer of the universe random, and then so on and so forth? So the whole universe random, right? I don't necessarily believe so, right? Because just because okay, so the example I use is in a metal, right? I don't know the exact metal, but there are some metals that are not conductive at the microscopic level. If you take a single like atom or a particle or whatever, a molecule of temperature was 2 years ago. If you take a single thing of a metal, it won't conduct electricity. Or even if you take a few of them at the microscopic level, they won't conduct electricity. But when you put them together and they form iron, then you stick it in a fork, you're gonna die. Or not stick it in a fork. You stick the fork in a socket, you're gonna die, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that just because the strings on the bottom layer of the universe are random, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything in the universe is random. Because just because things are random at the microscopic level means they might be orderly at the macroscopic level, and just the minuscule oscillations in the strings don't necessarily affect the whole array. Is the point I'm trying to make. And even if you don't believe that, and even if you think that this is an exception and that strings are random, so the whole universe is random, have you considered that maybe there's a bottom level below strings, and that because quantum mechanics and string theory is really the lowest that we know of. There might be something even lower, and that lower might be determined, right? So in that sense, it's not random, and you're cooked, right? But yeah, there's that. So science can't disprove if free will exists or not, and it doesn't really prove anything because you can argue forever and forever with people much smarter than me about whether string theory is even real or whether the Earth is flat, right? I'm sure there's very smart people that are willing to argue that latter one with you. All right, so the point is that we can't argue we can't argue free will from a physics standpoint, right? We can try neurology, we can try whatever we want, but we will do that. But physics doesn't mean jack shit, okay? And because I know, because when I went around asking people whether they believe free will exists, a lot of them, because I go to the STEM school, right? A lot of them told me string theory, right? And string theory means everything is random, but it doesn't. And if that's a bad reason, yeah. So we're talking philosophy is the point here, not physics, because I don't want to talk physics. So yeah, that's the point. Now, free will. So if we want to define free will, we could go a million different ways, and a million different ways, every single one of those will favor a different argument, right? So I will go with the most broad, the most generous, the most unarguable position of all. Free will is the ability to consciously decide between alternatives. Okay, I'm gonna write it out here. Okay, this marker's broken. Consciously decide between alternatives. Okay, cool, very cool. I like deciding between alternatives. Right. So why is this marker so broken? So you might say, yeah, I consciously can decide between alternatives. I chose to watch this video, right? Why did I choose to watch you instead of PewDiePie or Dream or whoever else is big on YouTube, right? And that's a very good point, and I appreciate you for that. You should subscribe, by the way. I'd very much appreciate that. But yeah, I mean that's a fair point, right? I chose consciously today in the morning to wake up. I could have chose to go back to sleep, but I had a doctor's appointment I didn't want to miss, right? I mean, it's the summertime. I don't really care about filling. Like, it doesn't really hurt that much. So why not? Why don't I just go back to sleep, right? And I consciously had that choice between waking up and going back to sleep, and I just woke up, right? But that was a conscious decision, right? And I guess at any moment you can consciously decide to end your life, right? That's a conscious decision you can make. And yeah, there's that, right? You have infinite power basically in your hands. Yeah. So you might say, yeah, I can consciously make decisions, but can you? Okay. So the distinction we have to make is whether it's an illusion that results from the human mind, that choice that you made in the morning, or is it truly free will, right? Is there some X factor to life that lets us defy 2 plus 2 plus 4, right? It always goes back to, is there that X factor, right? Or is it just an illusion and it's free will illusion, and should we all just go kill ourselves because it means nothing, right? Right. I think that's ultimately the question that we ask ourselves every day, right? But, so, yeah. So, the distinction comes between consciousness and choice. Subconscious consciousness, do you consciously decide to wake up in the morning? Like, because I feel like when I wake up, I'm like groggy as hell. I can't think straight. So I feel like that decision isn't a conscious decision. That's a very subconscious decision. But maybe it's a conscious decision. Maybe it's free will, right? But I don't know, right? That's the point. Maybe is a word that you hear a lot. Just maybe. Maybe all of this is bullshit, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, right? But that's not the point. So, the point is, a determinist would say that your ability to choose between options is merely an illusion, and that, okay, we'll try this example, actually. Okay, let's say I give you chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream, right? And you have this choice. You would say, oh yeah, like, depending on the day, maybe, on the weather, on whether I had coffee this morning or whatever, right? I would choose vanilla or I would choose chocolate, and isn't that a free choice, right? But is it? The distinction is that you, because of something, right? Because, sorry, or depending on something, right? You you made that choice. So if this is the litigant, oh my god, if this is depending on something, that is that really free will, or is that you were influenced by the other action, right? And even if you were influenced by the other action, is it still not free will? Is it just not influenced free will, right? That's also a question to ask yourself. But the point is, you have two options. So a determinist would say that you would always would pick chocolate ice cream. Um, so it didn't. Okay, so given the same exact set of factors, right? That you had coffee in the morning, that you woke up to bed on time, that you've had a good day, whatever, right? That you want to base the decision off of. Given the same set of factors, if you rewind the tapes, and this will be something you hear a lot today, if you rewind the tapes 100,000 times, right? If you rewind time and go back, so like on like old movies, you know how like you, like if you rewind the tape, you play the same movie over again. That's the analogy, right? Like if you rewind time, or you would always pick chocolate ice cream, right? And our instinctual reaction to that is no. Um, I would maybe choose vanilla one time, or I don't know. Maybe I just wouldn't eat ice cream at all one time, right? But that doesn't really make sense, right? Because we're saying given the same set of factors that whatever, right, external factors, you would make the same choice every day, right? So I guess it always comes back down to the X factor, right? Um, if the X factor exists, then sure, you pick vanilla one time. You might not pick any ice cream one time. But that's if that X factor exists, right? So we can sort free will believers into two categories here, right? So, okay, so before we talk about that, we have to first sort the people into categories. So, people that believe in an absolute free will, that you have a soul, maybe, or God gave humans free will, or life free will, right? Or it's just the way it is, right? Um, that you have an absolute free will, then yeah, sure, that's an absolute libertarian, right? Or you could be a little bit more of a doomer, and you could say, maybe, um, I'm a deterministic libertarian, right, or something along those lines. So okay, absolute libertarianism is less justifiable. If you believe in a soul, good for you, right? I don't know what a soul is, right? Do I think when I die there's gonna be like some magical aura of spirit energy that comes out of my body and it fucking like floats to heaven or some shit? I don't fucking know. I doubt it, right? I really do doubt it. It just seems so like abstract. The idea of a soul, it's yeah, it's very abstract, right? Or maybe you believe in God, right? Maybe God gave you free will, and then at that point, who am I to argue with you, right? Sure, God, and also God gave me the right to have seven wives, right? Right, but yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a bad argument. If you want to mix God with philosophy, I mean, you could, but really the difference between philosophy and theism is that theism is just like philosophy at home, with where you can debate just fucking God, right? So yeah, I mean, sure, if you want to, I wouldn't. But if you want to, sure, God gave you free will. Okay, yeah, fair enough, right? But if you maybe think that sure, some things are deterministic, like yeah, my action can be influenced based on what happened that day, right? Maybe I had a stomach ache, so I chose ice cream that day because I don't know, like ate something wrong or drank some water that was bad the day prior, right? And that influenced my action, which I would say 99% of people are, right? I don't think many people believe in absolute free will, that your decisions are truly random, okay? But most people would say that yeah, my actions are determined or contingent, contingent, contingent on something, right? Yeah, okay, sure. I agree with you, right? But still, so really the difference between everything in the universe is one row of dominoes, and it all, no matter what happens, it will all knock over the same way a million hundred times, right? Or maybe there's an X factor. There's some wind in the dominoes, and maybe a domino will set off where it wasn't meant to set off, or maybe there's like some random like contraption thing that makes it so like the dominoes go down one of three paths, right? I don't know, but uh, so yeah, so that's really the key difference, right? Is there the X factor or is there not the X factor? And we'll be focusing on that compatibilism, that first theory, where yeah, we have free will, but things are contingent, and I think we can all agree that things are contingent on something else happening, right? Like my actions will always be influenced by my upbringing, uh, my I guess genetics, yeah, my lived experiences, everything, right? That's absolutely true. I don't think anyone will argue with you there, right? But now the question is the X factor, okay? So basically, the argument against that is that subconscious actions really do dictate your conscious actions, right? So if we want to talk about neurology, there's this famous study that's like, oh, I will give you a button to press, and you can press the button whenever you want, right? And they have like wires hooked up to your brain, and they can see the neuron fire before you consciously even realize that you want to press the button, right? So the point is that by the time you consciously realize that you have made the decision to press the button, your neuron is fired before you made that decision already. So your subconscious has determined your conscious. Right. So I think a lot of people then say, sure, yeah, I can see how you might say that's not really free will because I didn't consciously make that decision. My subconscious did it. But still, is my subconscious not me? Did I still not make that decision, right? And I would say, sure, you made that decision, right? But still, we have to contend with the fact that it was still your subconscious, right? So is your subconscious that X factor, or is your subconscious just a domino in the line? Is your subconscious not a victim of genetics and predetermined factors? Like people have like deep rooted trauma, right? Deep rooted trauma lies in your subconscious. So is that not a like is that really free will? If some deep rooted trauma that you won't even remember is still affecting your conscious, right? Your conscious like decision making. So here we go. So you might say that yeah, my subconscious may influence my actions, but that final choice whether to eat that chocolate vanilla ice cream is still my decision, right? And I would say that this idea doesn't really hold water. It is a very popular position, by the way. Don't get me wrong. That you contend with your subconscious and all these external factors, but you still, at the end of the day, make that final decision, which would make it free will, right? Because if we said that your subconscious made that final decision, that's not free will because you didn't even consciously choose to make that decision. Okay, so it's not. But if you say, yeah, I consciously chose to make that decision, then even with weighing in my subconscious and these outside factors and everything, right? Then it's free will. And sure, a lot of people will argue that. But, okay, so let's say the conscious decision is when you make it willingly, with knowledge of having the chance of making this decision. You're presented with chocolate or ice cream, right? Is it still your conscious if your choice was influenced by external factors? Like, this is a very semantic argument. But your subconscious weighs so much on your conscious ones that can you not say your conscious ones are a result of your subconscious? Like there is no X factor, it just starts and ends there. Your subconscious is your conscious and just flows, right? That'd be the argument against that. And all subconscious decisions are obviously a result of chemical processes in your brain, within the prefrontal cortex, and all decisions are affected by this genetics, circumstance, logic, whatever, right? So there's that. Some people might argue that it's your subconscious that matters and not really your conscious, and the subconscious is an X factor, and that X, or maybe your subconscious is free will, right? Maybe you subconsciously have free will. That's the precursor to what we're gonna get to. Okay, that's a long precursor, I know. So the most common argument in existence for the existence of free will is quantum mechanics, and we've talked about this. And there's also this thing called chaos theory, okay? And if we want to go with chaos theory, it's kind of where this whole thing goes to die. So there's literally no point of having any philosophical conversation. I don't know about that one actually, but there's no point in this philosophical conversation if chaos theory exists. Okay, because fuck, like we know nothing and we can hope to understand nothing. So what even is the point of philosophy, right? So in short, at the lowest level of the universe, things are random, right? Like we've established, and chaos theory basically runs with this and says that. Britannia, oh my god, defines chaos theory as a study of apparently random, unpredictable behaviors in systems governed by deterministic laws. So, at the quantum level, these stochastic, which is a very fancy word, particles are theoretically random, right? And you could say it could be nothing that caused the result. It could be it just so happened, right? That's basically chaos theory. We don't like. I don't know why I decided to raise my hand just now. It just so happened, right? Why not my leg? Why not my whatever? Right? That's chaos theory. The universe is absolutely chaotic. It's random, right? Because at the string theory level, it's random. So let's say that. Okay, so I already said that string theory doesn't mean jack shit in terms of free will, but let's run with this, right? Let's say chaos theory truly does exist. Does this even really matter? Like, if chaos theory truly does exist, right? Does human free will exist? Like, let's think about this. So, chaos theory doesn't necessarily necessitate, oh my god, human free will. Just because things are random doesn't mean humans have the ability to randomly choose, right? That's not really true. It might mean that things are not deterministic, wholly deterministic, like the Big Bang was a domino that knocked every other domino over, and that the universe has a set timeline, and no matter how many times you rewind back in time, the things will still go down the straight same path. Hitler will always be Führer, and he will always start World War II, and Kanye will always go down to praise him in 100 years later, right? Even if you don't believe in that, just because the universe is random doesn't mean that free will exists. There's no direct correlation between universe random and your actions are truly random. This is true free will, or even a little random, right? The universe is so many things, and humans are just one speck in the sand, realistically, right? So why does this necessitate human free will? It doesn't, right? And okay, so yeah, again, the universe being random just means that absolute determinism is false. And I'm not. I don't think. Maybe not. Maybe the universe is absolutely deterministic. Maybe, but if anything, it just means that the randomness means a lack of control over our actions, and that your particles in your brain are acting randomly. And if the particles in your brain are acting randomly, are we truly saying that we have human agency if our brain particles are random, right? Like, if you want to go with the same framework as, sure, my subconscious has an effect on my conscious, but, yeah, so my subconscious has an effect on my conscious, but I still can control that. But let's say the brain particles in your brain are just randomly firing, right? And they just give you a random idea. If your action is influenced by a random idea, was it truly free will, right? Like, sure, you could say I chose that decision, but it was a decision that was random. Like, you had no control over it. The particles in your brain just randomly fired. Does that make sense? Okay. So, regardless, it's incredibly difficult to argue for absolute human agency because at the quantum level, your actions are influenced, right? And we see this in everyday life. There are 101 things we could judge without explicit rationale, like incest, right? We don't fuck our first cousins because we just have a feeling in our gut, right? Or we don't shout in Times Square just because, right? Just because it's just, yeah, it would feel wrong, right? Like, again, I guess, okay, if we want to talk about the incest thing, nothing about incest is inherently immoral. Like, okay, if the woman is sterile, okay, nothing about incest is inherently wrong, okay? Yeah, that's literally it. It's unarguable. It's just human evolution. So even the idea of incest is influenced by, we just find incest yucky because of human evolution, right? And down the line through human evolution, we've had this innate instinctual reaction to incest, but that innate instinctual reaction isn't free will. That's just innate. That's instinctual. That's uh, biology, really, right? So again, not free will. But okay, back to what we're talking about. So the fact of the matter is that humans have an inherent tendency to not have intercourse with our cousins. Okay, and this is not really too different from love, right? You don't really choose who you fall in love with, right? Like sure, like I don't know, this girl from like class, is cute, whatever. I don't know, right? Whatever. But why is she cute? Why her specifically, and not this girl in the class or this dude, right? Like what? Because I think the common understanding of homosexuality is that it's like this innate thing that you're born with, right? Which I mean, yeah, okay, sure, that's fair. But so why am I not gay? Is the point? Okay, why do I find this one specific girl in my class cute? Okay, that yeah. And there's no reason, there's no rationale, right? Like it's one of those things where you like it just because you like it. Like, you can sure. She says like she's my type. I don't know. Uh, she's white. She's blonde hair or whatever. She's blue eyes. She's tall. Um, you can say a million things about why you like a girl, but why do you find those specific things attractive? It's probably because of human evolution, right? Like, why do women find tall dudes attractive? Because tall dudes are more likely to fend for you when you're pregnant, right? Or why do we find, why do we generally find like fit people to be more attractive than skinny people, or yeah, like overly skinny people or overly fat people? Because the really fit guy has a higher chance of fending for you, right? Or why do we think, I'm gonna stop there actually. We're stop there. The point is that the reason why you might like someone, even if you have a reason for it beyond that just she's cute, can be traced back to human biology, right? That's the point. So, are those butterflies in your stomach free will, or is it just something wholly out of your control, right? You can say your actions are influenced but not predetermined, and that people have intercourse with their cousins, and that sure I might find that girl cute, but I wouldn't necessarily get with her, even though like this is a two that would equal my four. I might necessarily have two to make that two equal four, right? Whatever. You can go up. You can ask the girl that you don't find cute out over the girl that you do find cute, even though uh, your subconscious or whatever is telling you that this girl is cute and that girl's not cute. But whatever, right? Maybe because there's definitely another reason why you would ask a girl that you didn't find cute out over a girl that you did find cute. Right? Maybe she's really nice. Maybe she's a really nice personality, or maybe you have similar interests. Whatever, right? But still, that is not free will. That's just factors in your final destination, right? Okay, so yeah, humans are very logical creatures, right? Again, like I obviously would choose the girl I find cute over the girl I didn't find cute if it was just that, right? If it was just their looks and nothing else, right? But we are logical creatures and we do choose options logically, right? And if a person decides that this girl is the person for me, for based on whatever reason, right? Then why not? Yeah, sure, okay. Who says they're wrong? But the point is that we can't arrive at a solution just from physics and chaos theory because it just doesn't work, right? And then like there's too many reasons for things to be truly uninfluenced, and even if everything was random, the fact that there still are factors might means that there isn't necessarily free will, and that chaos theory is kind of a scam because even if chaos theory does exist, that doesn't really necessitate free will. That's the point, right? And then you have like decoupling of scales. Again, like a single atom of metal doesn't conduct electricity, but when you put a fork in an outlet, you die, right? Like that's the point. So yeah, okay. Um, so yeah, so what does have free will? If even if even at the subatomic level, at the quantum level, things are random, then what really does have free will, right? And the answer you get from theoretical physics is that it really depends on who you ask. Like some people would say, yeah, this does necessitate free will, and some people would say, no, it doesn't. Whatever, right? Maybe. The answer is maybe. Again, you hear that a lot. Okay, So remember how we talked about crushes and love and who you find cute and whatever, right? The phenomenon of attraction is not still fully understood by neurologists, right? Like there's something magical about attraction, right? And this is, I find, a decent argument for free will, right? Like why, or it's a decent argument for free will, not for free will, right? We can't quantify or specify uh, or rationalize our attraction to someone. And it really just starts and ends at she's cute, or she's nice, or I think she's funny. Like, why do some people find some things funny and not others? Is it an environmental thing? Is it just a neurological thing? Like, it's genetics. Well, that's kind of to genetics. But yeah, like we can't really say why we find one girl cute or not the other, right? Or whatever floats your boat, a guy cute, whatever, right? My point is that the phenomenon of love is like magic. Okay, there really is something magical about love, that we can't like quantify and make it scientific and whatever, right? And empiricize it. That's a fancy word for you, right? But okay, sure. So the more likely answer is that it's something so completely out of our control that we can't even grasp the existence. It's not magic. It's just so back in the, it's so far deep in the back of our head, or it's so subconscious that we just can't even begin to understand what makes us like this girl and the other. And maybe it's just human biology, right? Like, why do some people say that? Actually, I'm gonna stop there. But yeah, maybe it's just so innate into us what we find attractive and not attractive. Uh, like from like 4,000 years ago, my ancestors in China, right? Or 4 million years ago, yeah, from maybe, or the Homo sapiens or whatever, were roaming the plains of 4 million-year-old China. I don't know, man. Okay, so yeah, there's that. But also, our brain is known to play tricks on us, right? And we're not in as much of a control as we think we are. Like, okay, I talked about like the Liebman experiment, how like you subconsciously decide things before they even exist, right? If they're clicking the button and stuff. But maybe you say, "Oh, my brain is able to override the subconscious." Like again, like I might initially find this one girl cute, but I decide to talk to this other girl because she sits closer to me, right? So I'm overriding that subconscious. But is that convenience not a subconscious in and of itself? That's what you have to think about, right? But again, not the point. So all arguments about neuroscience or free will really tend to lean towards the conclusion that we're just slaves to our brain, right? Like no matter how much you want to go into it, there's always a subconscious that will give a input to our conscious, and if that conscious overrides or does not override it, that's probably not free will. That's probably also your subconscious overriding itself, right? That's the point. So it's about external factors, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's a decision to change the decision you subconsciously made, even this conscious one. Right? That's what I just talked about. How that decision override might even be a subconscious one. But the more fundamental problem is the fact that free will may be separate from the brain, right? So is your brain really deciding things? Wait, does your brain deciding things negates free will? But I don't know. This definition isn't really shared by most people. A friend of mine, Madge, she said that you and your you, your identity as a person, right? So me, Stanley, and my brain is one and the same, right? So you take my brain out of my body and put it into hers or yours or whatever, right? I'm on this body, the person you're looking at is no longer Stanley, but the brain of whoever's or the brain, the body in which my brain is in is me, right? So it's your brain that matters. It's your brain that determines the actions. So really, it's your brain that determines. It's your brain, right? So it doesn't matter if it's subconscious or conscious. We have to have this distinction, or can we just say if it's your brain that makes the decision, it's free will, right? I don't know. It might be that simple. It might not be. I think that's a separate argument. Okay. So and I saw this quote online from Scientific American by an Namias, I think, that most people accept that we can have free will even if our mental activity is carried out entirely by brain activity, and if your brain activity can freely make decisions, you and your brain are then freely making decisions. And there's doesn't necessarily have to be this distinction between subconscious and conscious, right? So really, I guess what you take away from this is, do you personally think that your subconscious and your conscious matter, or do you think all that matters is just your brain? I think that your subconscious matters, and that it's your prefrontal cortex. Like the fact that I can't even control whether I click this button, and it's subconscious neuron activation. I think that's proof enough that I don't have free will. But maybe you don't think that's proof enough. Maybe you think that the brain is one and the same. Okay, that's fine. So here, this part I'll talk about God. So also there's a disclaimer that like science and religion can coexist. The two are definitely by no means mutually exclusive. Whatever, right? So okay, a common argument here, mostly from theists, is that the Big Bang cannot be possible, right? Without a God, because something has to have started that domino reaction, right? Some people say that it was God that created the Big Bang, so God does exist. Some people say there's probably something before the Big Bang, but no matter what, something can come out of nothing. If you think that starting point, whatever, or if it's the Big Bang or not, something can't come out of nothing, and you have to have something to tip over that first domino, right? That's the point. So I think our understanding of the universe is undeniably flawed, right? We don't know if the Big Bang is the origin of the universe. We don't really know what caused the Big Bang, or if it was the origin of the universe, or if it's just another domino and a line of dominoes. And it's like this reset theory, right? Where the universe expands so much that it runs out of energy to expand, because the universe is ever expanding, right? And then it collapses into itself, and then it causes another Big Bang, and then comes out again, right? This is like the Big Bang, part two or whatever, right? But even then, what caused the first Big Bang, right? Because if you're saying the Big Bang is a recurring thing, where every Big Bang causes every Big Bang, what caused the first Big Bang? God, I don't know, right? But that's not the point. So yeah, we still even lack concrete proof that there. Well, okay, I don't know about concrete proof, but we do lack a definitive answer of whether there was a Big Bang. But nothing about the theory that assumes this idea of coming from nothing, right? Like nothing about the Big Bang says there was something from nothing. For all we know, there was something before the Big Bang. It could be nothing, it could be empty space, or it could have been something, right? So nothing really implies the existence of God. And I'm really only addressing this because God, people do say, has given you free will, but there's that, right? And then, yeah, okay. Here we go. Last page. We're almost done. So, something like God existed, he could grant us free will, right? That is absolutely true. Like, I don't know. Pray on a genius lamp that humans have free will. Okay. I think if true free will did exist, I think it would be like the Purge or something. I think there would be. I think if true free will existed, that would mean that nothing is influencing our actions. So that means logic goes out the window, and any reasoning goes out the window, because I don't murder people because I understand that murder is bad. But if I had true free will, I would murder people because I don't have that prior preconception to influence my action, right? That's the point. So yeah, true free will probably isn't the greatest idea even in practice. But yeah, there's that. Yeah, or you can say free will can coexist with reason, and they're one and the same. But okay, whatever. I think we're arguing semantics. Okay, so we can talk about evolution theory. If humans really did evolve out of nothing, or if that bacteria turned into somewhere down the line a human, how did that bacteria come to exist? How did life come to exist? Whatever, right? We can talk about evolution theory, or Cain and Abel, like if women were from the rib of Adam, which I think is a mistranslation anyways. Whatever, right? We can talk about the origins of humans, and whether human evolution is real, or whether we came from Cain and Abel, whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So if you're a theist, if you're a theist and you believe that God's rule in the universe, or a deist, sorry, and you believe that God is a watchmaker, right? Then he hit this original domino, and he's just been chilling in his lawn chair ever since. Then we really could have free will, right? Um, if God randomly hit this first domino, then theoretically every domino after that would have some degree of randomness to it, which would theoretically mean we have free will, sure. But again, I don't believe in God. Yeah, there's that. Oh yeah. Also, if you're a believer in God's involvement with the actions of the universe, are we just puppets in some grand tragedy played out for God's entertainment? Like, is human existence supposed to be happy? Am I supposed to enjoy living, or are we supposed to all suffer so God can enjoy our suffering? Right. I'll let you think about that one. But okay. Anyways, when it comes down to it, it's hard for me to say that there is or is not free will. And that's not the point, right? The point is that I don't think there's a free will because I fundamentally believe that an option A will always result in an option B. And if you give me, I think if you give me the same option under the same like logically speaking, if I'm given the same set of circumstances and I am given the same option, I would always choose that one option, right? Because that's only the logical thing for me to do. I don't think there's some magical X factor. I think we're all just slaves to our subconscious, and that it's our my action today, me deciding to take this step, was a result of the Big Bang. Okay, that's what it comes down to. Okay, um, and that really all our actions okay. All our actions are definitely influenced by previous experiences, and I just think even if there's an X factor, that prior influence means that we don't have true free will, and I just don't think there is an X factor, and I think that the universe is a very logical place, and that a two plus two will always equal a four, and I think I'm a two, not an X, and I think I'll always make a four and not a Y, and I think we can end there. Yeah.